This is Tony. Tony is a 6-year-old from the Hamlin Midway neighborhood of St. Paul who loves playing soccer. Lately, Tony has been having trouble breathing, especially after soccer and other physical activities. Although his parents are worried, they haven't had his asthma diagnosed because they lack health insurance.
Not an emergency, you don't have health insurance, you're probably going to have a hard time getting treated. And so some people call 911 or wait until there is an emergency. And I think that's a big part of the problem, because those folks aren't getting as good a quality care because they're not getting preventive care. They're not getting the kinds of care that you would get if you had coverage and actually went to see a doctor on a regular basis. And so you wait until it's an emergency and then you can get treatment, but it's generally not that.
Because he hasn't received needed medical attention, Tony's asthma has progressed. One night at 1:17 a.m., Tony begins to have a severe asthma attack. Unfortunately, there is no hospital located at the Midway. The only medical care center is Health East Clinic, which is within walking distance from Tony's home but lacks an emergency room. This leaves Tony's family with no choice but to take him to the next closest place, Regions Hospital.
In St. Paul, our hospitals are kind of clustered in downtown. I mean, we've got Regions and St. Joe's and United and Children's all sort of in and on the edge of downtown.
Tony's parents want to call an ambulance for their son, but they know that they cannot afford it. Both of Tony's parents work minimum wage jobs, which means they cannot qualify for welfare. Because of their status, they would be forced to pay the entire fee, which can range from $500 to $1,000. To make matters worse, Tony's family belongs to 18% of the people in the Midway that do not have a car. If they could drive to Regions, it would take only 11 minutes, while an ambulance would take even less time. This leaves Tony and his parents with the only option of taking the city bus. Tony's asthma began at 1:17 a.m., but the next bus that will go to Regions does not depart until 1:37 a.m. This means that, with walking time and waiting factored in, it will take him 44 minutes to arrive at Regions Hospital. En route, Tony's condition worsens, and as his brain becomes starved of oxygen, he falls unconscious. At 2 a.m., Tony finally arrives at Regions Hospital, where doctors rush to restore his breathing. Fortunately, Tony survives the ordeal, but because his brain was deprived of oxygen for such a long period of time, he will likely suffer from some form of neurological impairment. In addition to the financial burden of this hospital visit, Tony's family will now have to struggle to provide care for his condition in the future. Was Tony at a disadvantage because of where he lived and because of his family's low income? If Tony had had medical insurance, his parents could have treated his asthma before he needed emergency care. If an attack had presented itself, they could have afforded an ambulance. If they could have afforded a car, they could have gotten there in a fourth of the time. If Tony's parents hadn't lived in the Midway, where the Health East Hospital was downgraded to a clinic, he might have been closer to an emergency room. Were these obstacles the product of dysfunction in the transportation and medical systems of St. Paul?